"I'm sorry, but we just don't see you as part of the company's future," she said, barely glancing up from her designer tablet. Her name was Tiffany Green, 27, freshly graduated from some overpriced business school, and now acting CEO of DİDN'T Manufacturing in Cleveland, Ohio, thanks to Daddy's early retirement. I'm Raymond Cole, 58 years old, and I'd been with DİDN'T longer than she's been alive. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. I just ran the floor, kept things moving, trained every kid who ever stepped into the plant, and made sure deliveries never missed a date. But Tiffany had a plan. Out with the old, in with the trendy. She fired me with a smile, like she was tossing yesterday's coffee. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I held the keys to every machine, every deal, every quiet favor that kept this company alive, and I wasn't about to go quietly. After nearly 3 decades in the business, you'd think getting fired wouldn't sting so much. But when it's done with a condescending smile by someone whose diapers you could have changed, it cuts a little deeper. Tiffany Green sat behind the mahogany desk her father used to occupy, oversized, impersonal, probably picked by some interior decorator who thought modern meant cold. Her freshly manicured fingers tapped impatiently on a glass tablet as she finally looked up at me. "Raymond, you've been with us for a long time, but we're restructuring. We need a more dynamic, youthful team to keep up with market trends. We're moving in a bold new direction." She spoke like she was reading from a PowerPoint slide. It was rehearsed. Hello. She didn't care about my years of service, my loyalty, or the late nights I spent making sure this place didn't fall apart when others dropped the ball. I nodded once, slowly. "Got it." That's all I said. I didn't beg, didn't argue, didn't remind her that I trained the floor supervisors, negotiated half the supplier contracts myself, or that I was the only one who could get the vintage punch press online for it to actually work. No one else even understood the wiring. She smirked, probably thinking I'd go home and sulk, maybe play golf, maybe cry over old company T-shirts. Instead, I walked to my office, packed up my few things, and left quietly. But inside, a plan was already forming. I'd seen this kind of thing before. Young bloodstorms, in thinking they're reinventing the wheel. What they don't realize is, they're still driving on the roads we paved. Tiffany didn't just fire me, she triggered something I'd buried for years. A quiet understanding that loyalty meant nothing to people like her. That evening, I sat in my garage, flipping through a dusty old file cabinet. I pulled out a folder labeled Legacy Systems DİDN'T. It was my personal copy of everything the company had forgotten. They still needed blueprints, passwords, vendor backdoors, and yes, some favor files. Let me be clear, I wasn't planning sabotage. I wasn't a criminal. But I knew where every skeleton was buried in that factory, and I had nothing left to lose. They say, when one door closes, another opens. But sometimes, you've got to kick the damn thing open yourself. After leaving DİDN'T, I didn't go home to mope. I went to see an old friend, Luis Mendez, a former systems engineer, who left the company 5 years ago after Tiffany's father refused to update our software. He now ran his own small automation consulting firm downtown. He greeted me with a bear hug and a look of confusion. "Raymond, you get lost or something?" "I just got fired," I said, forcing a smile. "Thought you'd want to know." Luce's eyebrows shot up. "What, you were the one thing keeping that place from burning down?" "That's what I thought too." We sat and talked for hours. I told him everything about the restructure, Tiffany's arrogance, and how she had no clue how DİDN'T actually worked. He leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "You still have your access credentials." "I have more than that," I said, pulling out the flash drive I'd kept for emergencies. Over the next few weeks, I kept quiet. Legally, I did nothing wrong. I hadn't signed a non-compete, and I didn't steal anything. Everything I had was from my own records, built up over nearly 30 years of service. I knew every flaw in the production line, every vendor delay, every glitch in the outdated logistics system. And so, Luis and I got to work. We started consulting for DİDN'T's competitors quietly, of course. The smaller firms at Tiffany had laughed off in meetings were hungry, nimble, and willing to listen to advice from an old-timer like me. Using my knowledge, these companies started picking off Green Tech's clients one by one. I didn't advertise what I was doing, but it didn't take long for Tiffany to notice. One morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. There was a pause. Then, that familiar clipped tone. Mr. Cole, this is Tiffany Green. I was hoping you might consider coming in for a conversation. I chuckled. About what we've been having. Operational challenges. Transitions can be bumpy. I was wondering if you'd be willing to consult, temporarily. I let the silence hang. Temporarily, yes, to assist the current team. We'd compensate you fairly. That was rich. I'm not looking for temporary, Tiffany, I said, letting her name drag just a little. There was another pause. I could feel her frustration brewing. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. But I wasn't going back. Not yet. A week after Tiffany's call. I started hearing rumors. Green Tech had missed 2 major shipments. The new logistics software. She brought in some shiny, overpriced thing that looked great in meetings, kept crashing mid-cycle. Machines were breaking down without proper maintenance. Half the line workers were confused, overworked, or just quitting altogether. I didn't need to sabotage a thing. I had been the glue. Without me, the cracks became canyons. Luis and I were now full-time consultants. We'd signed on with Morrison Industrial, one of Green Tech's former mid-tier rivals, with a few tweaks to their processes based on what I'd perfected over the years. They were now delivering faster and cheaper, even better. They landed the Midwestern auto supply contract. Green Tech had held that deal for over a decade. When that news hit the press, I knew Tiffany would blow a fuse. She didn't disappoint. That same day, I got another call, this time from a different number. Her voice was sharper now, like she'd finally realized the world wasn't going to bow to her MBA. Mr. Cole, she said, tight-lipped, I'd like to offer you a full-time executive consultant role. High salary, full authority over operations. Immediate start. She was desperate. I let her speak for a full 2 minutes before calmly replying, that sounds generous. But I'm not interested in fixing what you broke. Then, I added, besides, I'm busy making your competition stronger. I hung up. My plan wasn't complete yet. There was one more step, you see. Tiffany didn't know that Green Tech's most critical supplier, Midvale Steel, still operated under an old handshake deal with me. For years, I personally negotiated rates, ensured quality, and gave them priority scheduling. They trusted me, not the company. So when I called my old contact at Midvale, I didn't have to say much. I just want you to know, I said. I'm working with Morrison now. That's all it took. Within a week, Midvale announced they were suspending all priority shipments to Green Tech. No steel, no machines, no machines, no product, no product, no product, no company. Green Tech was collapsing. The building was still standing, sure, but inside, chaos reigned. And I hadn't lifted a single illegal finger. Just knowledge, relationships, and timing. 3 things Tiffany never bothered to learn. By the time summer rolled in, Green Tech wasn't just struggling, it was spiraling. Orders were delayed. Clients were pulling out. Vendors were demanding upfront payments. The stockpile of trust built over decades, gone in months, and right at the center of it all was Tiffany, still putting out press releases, pretending everything was under control. She even started showing up on local business podcasts, talking about disruption and modernizing legacy systems. But you could hear the cracks in her voice. She was fighting a fire with perfume. Meanwhile, Morrison Industrial, our new home, was thriving. We'd absorbed 4 of Green Tech's former clients, including their largest one, Granger Packaging. That contract alone kept 2/3 of our workforce busy for 6 months straight. One afternoon, I got a message from an old Green Tech employee named Tommy, one of the young guys who had once looked down when I was packing up my office. Ray, it read, "We miss you, man. Tiffany's got the whole place upside down. You were the only one who knew how to keep things running. They're talking layoffs again." I wish I could say I didn't enjoy the power shift, but I did. Not because I wanted to destroy the company. I loved that place once, but Tiffany needed to learn that running a business wasn't about boardrooms and branding. It was about people. About understanding the soul of the machine, and she had none of it. Still, I wasn't done. There was one final card I'd been holding, the facility lease agreement, back when the company expanded. Tiffany's father couldn't secure enough financing for a second plant, so I bought the land myself and leased it back to DİDN'T at a friendly rate. No one ever noticed because I never made noise about it. It was my safety net, and now it became my weapon. I served DİDN'T with a 30-day notice to vacate. The main assembly plant, the one that handled 70% of production, was on land I owned. Tiffany called me that evening. "You can't do this," she hissed. "It's corporate blackmail." I paused. "No, Tiffany, it's business. The very thing you said I was too old to understand." Her voice broke. "You're ruining my life." I stayed silent for a beat. "You ruined your own when you fired the wrong man." Click. In less than a year, DİDN'T folded. Tiffany tried rebranding, merging, even crowdfunding. Nothing worked. Reputation, like trust, once lost, is gone for good. And me. I bought back some of the old machinery at auction. Built a small workshop out in Akron with Luis and a few loyal former employees. We didn't chase growth, we built quality. Word spread. Clients returned. And the legacy continued, not under DİDN'T's name, but under something better, something earned. People think revenge is loud. They imagine yelling, slamming doors, maybe courtroom scenes and dramatic speeches. But the real kind, the kind that actually matters, is quiet, methodical, unapologetically patient. Mine took less than a year, and it didn't require me to yell, threaten, or even raise my voice. I just let experience do the talking and incompetence do the rest. A few months after DİDN'T officially shut its doors, I drove by the old factory. The parking lot was empty. A for-lease sign hung crooked on the main gate. Weeds had started pushing through the asphalt like nature, reclaiming what arrogance had abandoned. I got out of the truck and walked to the chain-link fence. For a moment, I just stood there, hands in my pockets, remembering the noise, the sweat, the laughter of lunch breaks, the hum of machines that never stopped. I didn't smile. It wasn't a happy ending. Just as back in Akron, we called our new company Foundry One. Small, independent, humble. We didn't have venture capital or a marketing department, but we had something better. Reputation. Old clients came to us, not just for parts, but for reliability. We never missed deadlines, never overpromised. We treated every order like it had our name stamped on it, because it did. Luis handled tech, I handled operations, and we gave a few of the younger guys leadership roles, mentorship, not management. We didn't want another Tiffany rising from our ranks. We built something real. Every now and then, someone asks if I ever heard from her again. Tiffany. The answer is no. I did hear a rumor that she moved to the East Coast, tried to start some e-commerce thing. Good for her, I guess, but honestly, I don't care. This story wasn't about her. It was about what happens when you mistake wisdom for weakness. About what's lost when you treat loyalty like a liability. And what one old man can do when he's underestimated just one time. Too many. Sometimes. The greatest revenge doesn't come from shouting, lawsuits, or dramatic take. It comes from knowing your worth. Walking away with your head held high. Then quietly watching the ones who dismissed you crumble under their own arrogance. Raymond didn't need to scream or fight dirty. He just waited, observed, and acted with precision. Because when experience meets patience, it becomes power. And when power is underestimated, it becomes unstoppable. If you felt this story deep down, if it reminded you of a time you were overlooked, replaced, or told you were too old or not good enough, then don't let your voice stay silent. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever been underestimated and turned the tables? We'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoy real stories of quiet revenge, justice served cold, and life teaching the hard lessons, then hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more powerful stories coming your way every week, because some victories aren't loud. They're just final.